The rise of Africa, the continent, the diaspora, and BRICS explores the relationships that are affecting the global economy right now. This book explores the relationships of the African diaspora's influence on the African continent and why this is important in stabilizing relationships with an understanding of how BRICS impacts the future, good or bad. You can order your copy of The Rise of Africa today on Amazon.com.
Every journey begins with a simple act of care. For Quest to Unite Africa, that journey started with something simple: a mother, a newborn, and a promise that no life would be forgotten. We did not begin with buildings, we began with people. We packed mother newborn kits with our own hands because real change starts where the need is greatest. Those kids traveled farther than we imagined, and they opened our eyes to a deeper truth. Aid saves lives, but infrastructure saves generations. So we grew. Together with donors, volunteers, and partners, we sent a medical container to Burkina Faso. Not just supplies, but hope. Not just boxes, but proof that when a community comes together, healing moves across borders. That moment changed us because we realized something powerful. We weren't just delivering help, we were building a future. Now the journey continues. The next chapter is bigger than a shipment, bigger than a campaign. We are raising funds to build a state-of-the-art hospital, a place where mothers can give birth safely, where families can find care close to home, and where communities can grow stronger for generations to come. This hospital is not just a structure, it's a promise. A promise that healthcare will no longer be temporary. A promise that dignity will have a permanent home. And just like every step before, we cannot do this alone. Every gift, every brick, every name placed on the founder path becomes part of a story that began with compassion and is growing into legacy. It helps us move from emergency aid to lasting healing, from containers to care that never leaves, from vision to reality. Join us, stand with us, help us build a hospital that will serve generations, moving healthcare into action. Visit q2ua.org today.
Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. Neo-diplomacy is the new currency. The reason that I can say that is you have a couple of different factors occurring right now as we speak on the world stage. The dollar is being disrupted. Nations are no longer wanting to engage with the United States. But the third factor that affects each and every one of us is that there is a diaspora from the African continent that's willing and able to engage our brothers and sisters on the continent.
All right. Shalom, salama, siyemi, shalom. Greetings to all my Israelite brothers and sisters from around the world, whether you're the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the house of Israel, or you're a Gentile grafted into the house under the blood of Yahusha HaMashiach. I welcome you this morning. Sorry, family, I had a little bit of some, and I still do have it. Give me just a second. All right, I'm back. Okay. Sorry about that. Man, StreamYard must be off today. All right, sorry about that. Give me one if you all can hear me. Because, it's one of those things. The enemy was fighting me all throughout this morning, yesterday. And I know that when he does that, something big is getting ready to happen. Something big is getting ready to occur because it's not just me, it's us as a community. As a community, we are being literally, we're going through it. But you can tell we're going through it when people recognize what it is that we're going through. Now, one of the things, because I know what I did in showing the Lego pieces in the thumbnails, that was going to get the ire of StreamYard and YouTube. So please like, share, subscribe, or hype up, whatever, however things go, because this is a big deal. This is a big deal broadcast because I don't think a lot of our people know what's going on. And this isn't just for Hebrews, this is also for Gentiles because they don't know. And I'm going to explain that to you all here in a little bit. But before I do, I wanted to kind of go over an anecdote because, I get to experience a couple of interesting things as a teacher. And one of the things that I experienced on last Friday was a very interesting dynamic. And what ended up happening was one of the students, he's a Caucasian kid, and um I've had to speak to his dad a couple times. And the student, because of his personality, um there's difficulties. And he's relatively quiet. And, as the end of the school year winds down, a lot of kids, they start to act out because they're realizing that their summer school is on the horizon because of the fact that they did not do what they needed to do. And so what ended up happening for this student, he was saying some things that was triggering other students. And one of the students that I have, he's one of my smartest students in all my classes. He maintains a very high GPA, is testing high, has a lot of high standards for himself. And, he's also mixed. And I don't say that as a bad thing. I say that because there's a confusion principle to that. And let me get to the story because this microcosm is a macro of what we see going on. And there's there is a Hebrew kid that had tried to explain the circumstance to the mixed kid, and obviously he's mixed, he's very fair, obviously. You can tell he has some black mixed in him, but he's very fair. And what ended up happening was that this altercation had started, and it wasn't anything really crazy, but there were trigger words used, and the Hebrew kid was trying to explain to the mixed kid, what was going on, and all I could see was obviously the Caucasian kid, just kind of just getting red in the face, laughing up a storm because he knew that he was able to trigger and manipulate. And I stated this. I said, listen, I said, what y'all are doing is you're just feeding the beast because he has triggered you all and you started to bicker and argue amongst yourselves. And all he's doing is he's just in the background, just eating up all your energy as you're going crazy. And the mixed kid was like, no, he's not. No, I know when I'm being manipulated. I know when I'm being triggered. And you know what? And he couldn't stop. He couldn't stop. And the black kid got wrapped into it because that was his friend trying to kind of calm him down because what he had stated, and I don't even know what he stated, but all I do know is this: it kept him on the loop. And when he was on the loop, he could not get off. And that, to me, I was laughing because I said, oh my goodness. I said, thank you, Father, because you're showing me who we are as a people because we're looking at things trying to trying to understand the constraints and saying these are not constraints. This is not what's happening. This is not what's going on. This is not what the issue is. And because for the large part, a lot of our people don't want to acknowledge the reality that's in front of them, we get caught in the loop. Now, let me continue to explain this because here we go. Sorry. Give me, actually, you know what? I'll do this. And that gives me a chance to get my tea. It has been one of those mornings, family. It has been one of those mornings. Oh, here's the latest and greatest from Iran. Here we go. All right. So, and yes, they do. Yes, they do, Minimus. They he says LOL, they like them some Malcolm X. They absolutely do. Now, the reason that I showed this is because this is now a propaganda machine. And I'm going to tell you that yes, they are getting good. And yes, the Lego X or the Malcolm X Lego is pretty interesting. It was interesting because you understand the way that this is going, right? You have, obviously, that's depicting our ancestors. And then it goes to this is us present day. And why do I say that? Because that is still happening even right now as we speak. Because you wouldn't know unless they had told you. Here is the heart of the matter. Oh yeah, there's a lot in that, especially not just with um with it. Look, they're dismantling the system of Babylon. I don't know if you all understand this. They're dismantling the Baal system. Whether or not they know that they serve Baals, it's irrespective. They're dismantling it. And through that dismantling, yeah, they are placating to our sentiments. Okay, let's be fair about it. But let me show you this. It's kind of one of those things like, hey, we knew that this was coming. We told you so. We told you that this was coming. When did they publish it? On the weekend. Why? Because they knew that they were getting ready to do an action like this. Supreme Court prepares to review Trump executive order on birthright citizenship. Now, you know, here's the nice packaging, right? The executive order would deny citizenship to children born after February 19, 2025 to undocumented or temporary visa parents. Okay, that's the nice synopsis. But I want you to understand a lot of different keywords in here. At issue is the executive order the president signed on his first day back in office, which would end automatic citizenship for nearly all persons born in the U.S. to undocumented parents or parents with lawful temporary status in the country. A seismic legal, political, and social shift that critics would note would break more than 150 years of legal precedent. What was that legal precedent? Who was that directed at? You're beating me to the punch. Minimus says, good. Consider me not a citizen. Get me and my family up out of here. Oh yeah, yeah, that is yes, that's the result when you see shadow banning. So I like it how it shows one person in the chat when at least five were typing. Yeah, that's shadow banning at its finest. You all just get a chance to see it. Because that is again, uh, don't 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 get it twisted, family. A lot of things have happened within the week, and I'm going to tell you this. This is very, very not just interesting. This is where we have to be mindful that things are moving well beyond our control. I don't know if you all remember this or recall this. Remember, we were talking about this back in what, January, February. January, February time frame. And remember, look, I'm going to tell you this. My understanding was that this was going. See, I want you to look at this buildup here because my understanding. Here's this: the Supreme Court is poised to answer a fundamental constitutional question, largely ignored for more than a century. Okay, Who's the target if it was largely ignored for more than a century? This is why I have to have this way, because you have to look through. These are dark sentences. This is shadowy language. Here's this. The case is the fourth of a five-part series of appeals the Supreme Court will consider this term on the merits of Trump's sweeping executive agenda. The nine-member bench has already tossed out his reciprocal tariffs, right? So they want to sow the doubt. Oh, this won't really work. It won't really matter. On most other countries which relied on an economic emergency law, a separate dispute over ending protections for migrants with temporary protected status will be argued later in April. But here's the things that they don't tell you. Trump's order, now before the High Court for final review, would reinterpret the 14th Amendment, which states all persons or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside, a provision the president argues has been misinterpreted. Now, they're looking at it in terms of migrant parents and illegal immigrants and things of that nature. They're trying to have it, oh, this is a narrow scope. But the reality is this isn't a narrow scope. This is the scope of the qualifications of American citizenship. And as I had explained actually last week before, this was actually last Monday, I believe. We're seeing that these arguments, and why is this all out there all of a sudden? According to Fox News. Because again, reparative justice, if you want to talk about reparative justice, well, you can't have a reparative justice if you still have a people that are technically over here via being kidnapped. Let me go to here because I don't think that provided a great detail. That was Fox. Here we go. Here's a better article because Fox was very, very the language was very deceptive. So this is from the The Sun. Supreme Court to hear arguments Wednesday. Arguments when? Wednesday. Arguments Wednesday. That's in 2 days. Over Trump's birthright citizenship case. The justices will decide if the president can redefine the citizenship clause in the 14th Amendment to exclude children of mothers in the country temporarily or illegally. Keep in mind how they're phrasing this. Keep in mind, well, we didn't know. Look, the law was so old and it was this and that. We just thought. Keep the law says it's not payback. This is the plan from the get go. And yes, yes, thank you, Sean. You had stated it around Passover. Come on now. Around Passover. That's the one. That's the question. And see, what I always see, as I gave you that anecdote earlier, are people get we get emotional. And then what we try to do, look, irregardless of anything, the facts are the facts. You had a people literally trafficked here, human trafficking, stolen. We were cargo. I know that that's still hard to understand. But guess what? Iran clearly understands it, and that's why they put it in their propaganda films. Iran clearly gets it. No, this is not happenstance. And again, and again, what is that? What was the target's intent? It is absolutely to get us to move. It's absolutely to get us to utilize our energy and to focus on them so we don't focus on ourselves. So we don't focus on the Elohim that can save us. I think it's funny they have a pregnant white lady out there. But that wasn't the focus. They just got to give you what they can to try to, and I'm going to say this, try to show everything. See, even with Reuters, we're going to show every other population group and this and that because why? Because they don't want us connecting the dots when it's that simple. It is truly amazing to see that in a time of this war, look, the propaganda is unreal. Don't get it twisted. Sister Bonetta saying ICE just supported a woman and her twin 12-year-old daughters. Her daughters were born here. Children were with woman's mother who wasn't deported. Interesting. Yeah, they're getting rid of folks. And it's very interesting the timing. Now, shout out to Teo Ministries Live, the Facebook group. Man, everything is. There was a there was a post the other day, And he had also, Yakoba, I think, had also posted it on the YouTube community tab. How this YouTuber, I think he's also an author, but his name was The Merc, and I believe he was from Nigeria. And the anecdote that what he was trying to say, what he was trying to rationalize, was that Ghana had sold us out because they had signed a security agreement with the EU, and I get it. That's a bad optic. And so I had a discussion about that yesterday. And I said, wait a second, I need to get a little bit more clarity, especially from folks that have been on the ground in Ghana that understand Ghana. Because Ghana just doesn't do stuff just to do stuff. And I understand from the perspective of the Sahel, but there's really a double-edged sword here that's happening. And so I'm just going to share my perspective on that. You can eat the meat and spit out the bones. Because yeah, I was very much in my feelings. I said, wait a second. I said, you have Ghana saying this, they want us home, they do this, and you know, actions speak louder than words. But then I had to step back. Yeah, sometimes when you get emotionally wrapped up into things, and again, I do also, so I'm not the only one. I'll let you know. But that's when you ask the Most High for understanding, because sometimes the Ruach will just say, hold on, take a look at that. Now, you don't have to agree with me, but I just say, look, pray about it. That's what I always say, pray about it. It took me a day or two just to like really get that understanding in my spirit, because I'll just say, okay. Now, I'm going to look at it from this perspective. Because I know that this is one of the hardest perspectives for us here within the Black African American Israelite community. Now, I want to break this down because this is a war. Okay, let's break down this war. I'm going to stop sharing this. Let me break down this war. Even though last week we were laughing about Show Nuff and, or not, excuse me, not Show Nuff, the Tai Chi master and the character of the evil monk that had um lusted for everything, lusted for power, and had destroyed his own allies. Yeah, he killed his own allies. He killed, deleted the people that had trained him to be a tyrant. And keep this in mind, he was legally entitled to do that. He was legally enabled to do that. He was granted that legal authority. Now, keep that in mind. When the nations of this world decided to literally rise up in a mechanism known as BRICS. You didn't necessarily have to be declared on the BRICS team to know that it was a mechanism for the global South. And for all those that were trying to have fairness in trade and commerce. Excuse me. But what ended up happening, as you are well aware of, there's a problem with Europe. Europe has always had a problem. Europe wanted to always be kind of that overseeing element, but it relied too much on other people. So it was always trying to be the cool, popular kid. So it could make itself nice looking to appeal to the other nations that they were the cool kid and they really had nothing. They're just the cool kid that's really poor. And you can tell that right now because part of these now energy lockdowns that's getting ready to occur, don't get it twisted. Shout out to brother Asaph. He was telling me yesterday they were already on the verge of doing the energy lockdowns over in the UK, and that's going to also affect France, Germany, and other European nations. Ukraine's about to run out of oil and gas. Hungary and Slovakia are literally actively trying to have diplomatic arrangements to penalize Ukraine for holding up their gas from Russian pipelines. This is all crazy. This was all even before what happened on February 28th. So let me tell you this because I want you all to not understand this linkage because this is something that's very historical and they're not telling you about this. This is just my perspective. You can eat the meat, spit out the bones. Africa is winning. I know it's hard to imagine. Africa is winning. Now, I haven't looked at the full details of the EU security agreement. I have not. But I'm going to tell you this. The EU security agreement may not necessarily be what we think it is. Now, why do I say that? I say that because of this. If you know that, number one, I thought this. I thought this is going to be the case. I thought that Trump was actually going to ship or send some sort of oil over to Europe. And actually, they're not doing it because they're contending this. Well, if you want your oil, go help us open up the Strait of Hormuz. And those European nations said, no, we're not doing that. And basically, the Trump administration said, then y'all are just going to have to starve without oil. Now, and yes, Brother ASAP put it to the point, it is easier to put in new oil infrastructure in Africa than to repair the Middle East, and there's less hassle with Iran and everyone else. It absolutely is. For the most part, you'll have undisturbed shipping access to Europe. But here's the catch. Here's the tricky thing that the Europeans, I don't believe the Europeans weren't ready for on this one. I think a lot of the Europeans weren't ready for the idea that their quote unquote biggest ally, their quote unquote NATO member, United States, was going to do them dirty like this. Oh, they're being done dirty by the United States. Don't get it twisted. Hey, don't worry about everything. We're going to get Russia to help with the fuel. And Russia said, nope. Oh, we're going to get oil into Saudi Arabia. Then Saudi Arabia will pump on out through the Red Sea. And then here comes the Houthis. They're out of options. And see, when you know that they're out of options, here's the reality. The reality is this: they have to bend the knee to someone, somewhere, somehow. If they bend the knee to the United States, it's over for them. They know that. They have no more autonomy. And when they have no more autonomy, guess what? There is a credence that, you know, Europe does like to hide in the smoke and mirrors. They like to say, well, you want to know what? Yeah, we may be racist, but we're not as racist as Americans. It's funny because I actually had that discussion with a Europeaner, with a Frenchman, and also a German. You'll be surprised at the things that they tell you when you're behind closed doors and you've been drinking a little bit. Now, are they one and the same? Yeah, absolutely. But again, they try to lessen their severity, right? Hey, we get it, but we're not as bad as them. Oh man, America, they're bad. I don't understand it. Yep. And now that they don't have their who they thought was their ride or die, their homeboy, that's no longer their homeboy, they're now realizing that they've been riding with their opposition the whole time. So when you see the EU Security Council cooperation, that's not the same as NATO. There's a different nuance to that. And when you have the resources and you are in the power seat, like Ghana is right now, now they have to perform in order to get resources. That's it. Iran's done told on them. Europe is in trouble just simply because they're proxy. You see what's happening to all them Arab countries? They're getting smoked because they're proxy. And I'm sorry, but I've never seen a European person be comfortable being poor. They will literally riot, burn, and delete people. So what Europe is doing is a survival mechanism. They're in survival mode because the propaganda machine is not working. And I believe that Iran's propaganda machine is really on point. This is why, look, will something happen this week? I don't know. Could it happen could it happen next week? Honestly, I don't know. But again, what these folks are saying, it's not me, it's these experts. That they have around 2 to 3 weeks before it gets really bad with oil. And again, with the Houthis, oh, this is the coldest part. Again, with the Houthis are saying, we haven't shut down we haven't shut down the Bab al Mandeb just yet. They said that back on Thursday. Remember, we were saying, oh man, the Houthis not into the picture. Those are those turned up cousins. It's like, man, you can't look. You got to leave them in the hood. You can't take them nowhere with you, man. Just calm down, calm down. Well, the Houthis started to target that Eastern Mediterranean nation again. And their rockets and their missiles were going through. And on top of that, and they threatened a ground invasion. They said, we're just going to roll up to your spot. We don't care we don't care anything about them Arabs. We don't care anything about Saudi Arabia. And the funny thing is, the Saudis, and more than likely, the only people that'll put up a fight are the Jordanians, just because they're messed up. But it is what it is. But they'll roll up into that place. They would do it. They would get on their crafts, they'd take their boats, and they would be out. So the Houthis said, no, we're not going to do that just yet for targeting the Bab al Mandeb Strait. Do you know that they've already sunk 3 ships? So basically, Bab al Mandeb Strait is gone. Oh my goodness. There's really about now 2 to 3 weeks. This is going to get even worse. That's why, listen, family, prepare and pray and prepare and pray, because we are nowhere near the end here. But again, I'm going to say this. Are we getting closer to the end of our captivity? Absolutely. Absolutely we are. And for that 14th Amendment hearing, I thought it was actually going to be in June. I thought it was going to be in June. I told you that, family. I said they can bump it up. They can bump it up as soon as they want to bump it up. It doesn't matter. They can do things for whatever political or agenda specific things that they want to do. And now you see it. Now you see what's happening. So with that said, family, we'll discuss more tomorrow. And with that, I got to get up on out of here. Thank you, family, for your prayers and your support. And I ask family for your prayers, especially today. This is going to be a big, interesting day. So I appreciate you all in this as the Most High continues to move awesomely. Hallelujah. So with that said, family, shalom, salama, siyemi, shalom, peace and blessings, Yasharel.